Welcome back to the Nassau Hockey Podcast. Brett, thanks once again for joining the show. It feels like we've been here before, and not just because you're returning. This Islanders season feels like a repeat.
Yeah, I've seen this one before.
Too many times, roughly 200 times if you're going back a couple seasons. It's been a month since you and I chatted. I don't know that we want to get into specifics on everything, but what are your overall thoughts as we close out the first month of the Islanders season?
I mean, overall, it's exactly what we saw last season. It's a team that shows flashes of ability to play a game and ability to score, and then they can't put it together for a full 60. They cannot hang on to a lead for more than 1 minute, and it makes it very difficult to watch.
Yes, they've. Someone sent me a DM today, and it was like they've taken the fun out of a very fun thing. Like we're supposed to be able to sit and enjoy this, and my response was, yeah, it feels like a chore. It doesn't make me excited to talk about it. Like it's different, like the ups and downs and ebbs and flows of the season, or maybe they're expected to be bad. I can just get on board with that differently. But when the organization's kind of propping up this team, and again, it's all of these things we've heard before. The pre games, the post games, everything's just on repeat with just different faces. It's not Lane Lambert, it's Patrick Waugh now. It just makes it really hard.
Yeah, that's the problem with being a mushy middle team, right? It's going to be a lot of just sitting in the middle, mostly being upset with how a game turned out. But then you're not going to tank, so you're not tanking, so you can't be excited about the future. And you're not doing great, so you're not totally excited on the season that's happening. And we've seen enough about the past of the Islanders. We're all kind of sick of that. So it's like we're just stuck, and we don't really know what we're looking at. At least that's how I feel. I don't know what the future is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be super excited about this season. I still try to always, like you said, it's like entertainment, right? At the end of the day, we're supposed to enjoy watching this, so I still try to look for what's fun and what's positive with the game, or with the Islanders game. But yeah, it's really tough right now when some of the stuff that made last season so hard to watch is what we continue to see. There's definitely some positives that we're still seeing go through, and we could talk about them. Lots of negatives. I don't know. They probably take up more time. But
I think, like you said, there's that mushy middle. It just means there's a lot of both. There's a lot of both of those things. There are certain things you can point to. The positives just don't outweigh the negatives. I'm trying to stay at like a 30,000-foot view of things right now. And you're saying last season. I think it goes back to the season before too. Just this kind of it's just very inconsistent and everything. And then they start this season on the wrong foot. Like they immediately just go right back to who they were, and that game in Utah, and then it's just been up and down by the period, or every 10 minutes of every game. It's just been up. I don't know. It makes it. I'll say this, but before maybe we can dive into some stuff. I Doing this for so long. This is season 6 of the show. It makes it really hard to sit down. Like we've had this conversation before. You could probably cut and paste from a past episode and get these talking points.
Mhm.
Just change a few of the names around, and who's on a PTO, and who did this, and who's being called up, and who the head coaches change. But it's just largely the same. It makes I was thinking about it before we sat down. I sent you the notes earlier, and I was like, I feel like I've done. I've watched the team before. I've had the conversations. Uh, yeah, it just makes it all really, really hard to do this. And I think we had our preseason conversation. This obviously isn't where you thought the team would be at this point, right?
Well, yes and no, because we all knew going in. I don't think there's a single Islanders fan, or there's always those guys that are drinking the Kool-Aid and super positive on the team every year, and I don't begrudge them. That's totally fine. Like, enjoy the team the way you want to enjoy the team. I think we all knew going in this was a bubble team, right? No
Yeah.
one, no. So in that sense, where they are right now, 500 point percentage, 3-3-2. That's kind of like where we expected. If they had held on to that 3-0 lead against the Panthers, they'd be 4-2-2, and they'd be sitting with 10 points, and you'd be like, wow, this team's actually in a decent spot for that first opening 8 games, right? It's just the way that, and even 3-3-2 is not the end of the world. You're right in the middle of the pack there. You're a bubble team like we've seen. It's not so much that they're 3-3-2. It's the way that they are 3-3-2
I
that
think that's
makes it
exactly
so
right.
difficult to deal with this team. It's why it feels like the sky is falling when if you look at the team, if you just look at the standings page, like they're kind of where we expected them to be. It's just the sky, it does feel like the sky is falling because it's so painful the way they lose every game. I mean, what is it? They've had 10 leads this season or so. I just saw a stat. I think Stefan Rosner tweeted it earlier today. They've had 10 leads this season. They've blown 9 of them. Like, that's insane.
And that's like in addition to being shut out 3 times in 8
Yes. Yeah,
games,
exactly. Yeah.
right? So like it's you're either scoring and then letting them up, or you're not able to score at all. Like
Mhm.
whether that's puck luck or whatever you want to, PDO, you want to tie it to that where you weren't scoring and your goalies have a few that they wanted back, low quality chances or whatever that they allowed. And I think Wah had a couple. His view on Varley after the last game was not great.
Yeah.
He hit a long pause and said that he's a big boy. He knows he probably wanted a few of them back. So it's a combination of those things because you see like the flashes and you're like, oh wow, okay. Some of the guys anyway, namely Brock Nelson, right? That second line um, is really holding it down, and that the top line with and without Duclair, it still leaves some things to be desired. I think we can drill down on specific players soon. But yeah, I think exactly to your point, how they're making all this happen is, yeah, they're living and dying every minute. Like it's just they're just erratic. I don't know how you play that way.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to just like why it's difficult to watch sometimes because when you watch a hockey game, if your team, I mean, obviously it'd be amazing if our team went 82-0. It would never happen, but like even if your team won every single game, you'd kind of be like, oh, I don't need to check it out. They're gonna win, right? You kind of get comfortable. So like the ebbs and flows of the season make it enjoyable. It makes the winning that much sweeter.
Oh, you need a story.
Yeah,
Like there
yeah.
needs to be like if they go on a run here and they're playing really
Mhm.
well, it's amazing.
It's
Like
fun.
wow, they snapped out of it, and yeah, it's a whole
But
thing.
then when you play the way the Islanders play, and when you don't have a single game ever where you get to sit back as a fan and feel in control, like yes, they're in control. I can just enjoy this game. Instead, you're like, oh, we're up 3-0, and then one goes in. You're like, oh, it's 3-1. Here comes the rest of it. The other shoe's dropping. Like it's coming. We just know. So it just makes the game stressful. You have to sit on the. You shouldn't have to sit on the edge of your seat when you have a 3-0 lead. But with this team, you do, and it's so frustrating. You don't
Yeah.
ever get to sit back and enjoy it. And for me personally, we're 8 games in the season. I've watched 7 of the 8 games. The only game I didn't watch, I was sick, and was the game against Colorado where they won 6-2. I didn't even get to watch the one game where they did kind of be in control.
Yeah, the other night, so I was out for the Florida game, and they were up 3-0, and bartender goes, "Oh, Islanders are doing pretty good here." I'm like, "Cam, you just ruined it." Like that was it.
Yeah.
That not a minute or two later, they score the first one. Someone else comes in, one of my friends. Oh wow, yeah, they're up 3-1. It's a pretty good game. I was like, they're gonna lose this game. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, all of a sudden it was 3-3, and then the Florida Panthers turn it on. And I wanted to get your take on something because the guys at Anxiety had a similar conversation, and I just can't get it out of my head of the way that Patrick Waugh, or really Lane Lambert, made similar comments. I think every coach does this, but it happens to the Islanders so much because they lose. They let up leads and they allow teams to come back. The way they talk about other teams is like they're incredulous about the fact that the other team also wants to win and has
Mhm.
the same goal. They're like, "Oh, we knew they'd come back." They know they play hard and like, they're down 3-0, but that's a good team over there. He's like, so what did you instruct them to do? Like, what is happening in the locker room or in a TV timeout? I don't, Dan and Mike have just made that point before, and I can't get out of my head because the last one was like, yeah, duh, dude. That is what they're going to do. Why are you not prepared? And this goes Patrick Watt to Anders Lee. And I have a whole Anders
Yeah,
Lee
I'm.
rant in a second.
I'll say I don't really put this on Watt or even Lambert last year. Like I didn't like Lambert as a coach, so I'm not like saying these mid game losing the leads thing. That's not on the coach. That's 100% on the players. I was reading recently, and like you can even see if you watch the Amazon Prime NHL show, which is pretty good. Coaches that don't say much to their players in the intermission, maybe like a minute. The players, they're getting off the bench, they're resting, like they're getting in the locker room, they're changing whatever equipment they need to change, they're going to the bathroom. Like it's a quick 18 minutes. Coach doesn't have much to say. There's not much to talk about. It's on the players to mentally not let off the pedal. And this is a perfect segue into what you want to say about Lee, because I'm pretty sure I'm on the same page as you. It's just it's not I don't put this on I don't put this on Lambert even last year. Again, I put this on the players not being able to, either they're not capable of it because they're just older and slower players that we have on this team that can't put that kind of pressure on nonstop, and they have to pick their times when they could rest, and they're doing a bad job at it, or they're not mentally tough enough to do it. But this team just doesn't have the ability to hold those leads, and it's definitely part mental. There's a mental block on this team right now, and that's where your captain needs to step in and fix it. And Lee hasn't done it for years.
I'll start with the players as a whole, because if I'm a player and we played together growing up, like imagine there was somebody that came and was our coach that we knew, they're like, wow, this is, we're not going to get like a Patrick Waugh, but like hell, like Paolo Fontaine was a coach on Long Island, a very good Royals team. But like I'm trying to picture like if somebody like that I knew of that was super motivating, that they were there, what I would run through a wall for them, because I don't want to embarrass myself. And when Patrick Waugh came in last season, that was one of the things I said to James was how they're playing in front of him at times. I would be so embarrassed. I would wear a garbage bag over my head. And
Well,
the fact that they're doing this game in and game out, I don't know how they're doing that. Like they're playing like shit in front of
well,
Patrick Waugh.
it's because you have a bunch of overexposed role players. You don't have your game breakers on this team. Barzal is a great player. He's still, to me, a secondary piece. Like he's your second great best player on your team, right? He's the guy who's gonna set up your best player. But we don't.
I couldn't agree more. People don't say that enough.
Yeah. So like we're still missing that game breaker, the best player on your team, and that leads everyone to be overexposed because we're relying on other players to do things they're not supposed to, and then they look foolish out there.
Yeah.
That's what
No,
that
that's
is. They're just
100%.
not capable of it. They're role players, or they're not. I don't want to say everyone's a role player because that's not what they all are. But they're just players that are playing outside their depth. That's what it constantly feels like with this team, and that's what happens when you build a team of third liners with a couple first liners sprinkled in. Like
Yeah, the balance isn't there for sure, and I think I've even I've either gone all the way to say this or right up to the line. I don't think Barzell's elite. Like I think he gets the puck. I used to think it was exciting, and now I'm like, he's just gonna do his twirls and lose it, or
well, because
it just doesn't
the
work.
game tapes out on him. He's not innovating his game enough. He's
100%,
he's
100%.
one of the faster players in the NHL. He's clearly a great stick handler. He still is. Like he could still stick handle his way out of a lot of things, but the game tapes out of him. If he doesn't have 100% clear path to pass, like he's not going to try to let go and like make a risky pass or anything. He's just going to hold on to it, and so you just got to keep the pressure on him, and you could try to force him to lose it. Like
Yeah, and if he played, is a little bit cliche. I think if he played a little more north south, like in his rookie season, a lot of those, a lot. He did score a lot, but
oh, but that's the
there,
Doug Weight no defense year.
well, my
All
point
gas,
is
no
that,
breaks.
well, at least when he got the puck in the neutral zone, he was just straight ahead. He just used his speed and he beat defenders. Now he just got too pretty with it. Like he's trying to I don't know how to say it. It's like he's hot dogging it out there, and he's just trying to make a really nice play
Yeah.
instead of just get the puck to the net. Like find the lane, drive to the net, shoot it, and go. He's quicker than most players, so I don't understand this. Like it's not even hesitation. He's just gonna put a governor on himself, and he has like you're right. He just didn't innovate his game. Um, Everyone caught up to him. It's easy to watch the tape. He's the only guy you really need to focus on, except for Brock Nelson, which I'm really happy teams do not pay attention to him. Continue to ignore that, 30, 40 goal scorer every single year. But with Barzell, yeah, I think other teams caught on, and he, I don't know, he's regressed. I think in a lot of ways, he's up and down, but he's not he shouldn't be a 60-point player.
No, he needs
It's
to be point per game. He needs to be at least that. So
yeah, it's just the Horvat brought him to another level. When he played with Nelson, it was really good. There was some chemistry there. I don't know. Obviously, the preseason shouldn't be too much weight, but or we shouldn't put that much pressure on it. But it seemed like things were good. Duclair getting hurt doesn't help, and him being out, you know, nearly to Christmas. Maybe at the earliest around Thanksgiving, but they could be out of the race by then. They keep
yeah.
playing like this, like
Which stinks
that might not be for anything.
because if you look at the stats for the Duclair Horvat Barzal line, like it's actually they have been doing well. Their like expected goals range was like 65%. So like they should be outscoring their opponents 2-1. It's just they haven't got enough minutes together at this point. They've only played basically 60 minutes together, and now Duclair's hurt. That line was a top line in the league when they were together for the first 6 games.
There's just no finish.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the team, right? Like you see Silpakov in early on had a lot of chances in some early games. Simon Holmstrom, I don't know what is going on with him. Just seems weak on the puck to me. It's just he's getting knocked off or he's afraid. It's very Josh Bailey to me, where
Yeah,
unless it's like the perfect play, he kind of just folds.
yeah, it's watching a lot of players. It's kind of like this season is clear. We're not a fast team, right? We're not a fast team. We're not the most skilled team. So you look at that Islanders Devils game, the game we just won, even though it had to go to overtime when it shouldn't have. But how they scored most of their goals, there were shots from the point, they got tipped in or something, and that's I think the only way the Islanders really can play that and be successful this season is they have to be willing to sit in front of the net and clean up those garbage goals and just throw the puck at the net because they're not fast enough to get those skill goals. Barzal can skate in the circles all he wants, but no one's going to be open to finish off his play. So I don't know. This team, like Holmstrom, needs to be stronger and sit in front of that net. Lee has actually, I'm not happy with him as captain, but he has been having a decent year to start. He has been going to the net and playing hard in front of the net. So I don't know. We just need more of that, I think, is the only solution to this team right now. Sipakov's a big guy, hard to move. I think they'll start coming. I'm not writing him off yet. We're only 8 games in. So I think
he's lost his shine to me a little bit. You're seeing, as they play some better teams, the other teams are coming at him hard, and you're starting to see him kind of lose his confidence. Maybe that's probably the better way to say it. I think the skills there are definitely times, but a lot of giveaways. In his own zone, just like throwing the puck, it's a lot of the Islanders' problem, frankly, just kind of not smart passes, exiting their own zone or trying to back pass and it not being strong enough. Or, Kulak had a good one, but
it drives me crazy. The goal, what was 1-0 Islanders against the Devils? The goal that tied it up was Mayfield just throwing up the boards. He had it for 2 seconds and was like, decided, I don't need this puck anymore. And threw it up the boards. I don't know why they do that. It's the NHL. Like you have to sit with the puck and think for a minute. You can't just toss it.
Yeah, it's weird. Like these are, especially this team for, they've moved a lot of players out. Martin comes back and kind of ruins that. But like our little preseason conversation where it was, wow, Martin and Clutterbuck are gone. Now it's a really big change. So now he's back. Whatever. I guess we can comment on that in a second. But these are guys with a lot of NHL experience. It's really like what McLean. Now Martin's back. Foudy played NHL games. It wasn't like so. The fact that they just don't have poise at all, almost at all. I don't get it. I don't understand. What did coaches used to say? Like, it's not a hand grenade. Like, you don't have to just get, puck is on your stick. It's not going to explode. Take a second. And you're a professional. I understand it's the NHL and it's quick.
Exactly.
But if you deserve to be there, take your time. Like, make the right play or make the safe play. Don't just get rid of it so it's not your problem anymore. That's not how it works. If you caused something else, like, this has just long been this team's problem. And I'm sure it's not unique to them. But
it feels like it sometimes.
It sure shit does, because I think the unique part is, how do you change so much over 2 years? Call this the third season of it. Different coach. You get rid of.
I don't think they've changed that much.
Players.
I don't think they've changed that much. That's the problem.
Well, I guess what the perspective I try to bring is, since the second playoff run, the Eastern Conference run, a lot of players are gone since then. So that's why I'm thinking over 2 full seasons, including this one. Even just recently, Bailey, Bavillier, Clutterbuck, Martin for half a second. It's a big. Just those 3.5 players is quite a bit. That's some changes. Forget about other players that have come in and out. It felt a little bit like Lieboff calls the early, like the part of the early 2010s in that era, like the mercenary era. Like there was just like all of a sudden Valtteri Filppula was on the teams and Komarov, and you just had these like random players show up. And you're like, Bortuzzo, like why are you here? Whatever. Mike Riley feels like that. Chalowski feels like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you just have these people around. It's so I don't understand. I guess this is the time to kind of chat about Lee, because we have made those changes, and you bring in a new coach, and they played at a ridiculous point pace. Was it 100-point pace with Patrick Waugh, from when he came on board? Like, they played at a pretty good. It didn't look pretty. It didn't look like a 100-point pace.
They might have. I don't remember what they played at. They probably did play at a 100-point pace. They're down kind of bad. They had to play at a decent pace to make the playoffs, but even then, they only needed 93 points last year to make the playoffs, which is a very low point total to make the playoffs.
Yes, that's a rare. Under 95 is rare.
That's not going to happen again this year. You're probably going to need 97. So,
yeah, considering the entire Atlantic is like 4-4-1, you're just handing points to each other, and it's going to be really tough. It might mean that 7-8 spot or the wild card spots are easier to get, but you still have to lock it down. Like, if everyone's going to be mushy, you have to find a way to. It's just giving points away. I think it's in the beginning it was funny. It was like, oh, loser point, but Islanders love that. But at a certain point, like, it doesn't. You got to find a way to always get a point somehow, but it can't be how you're making it happen. Did they have more than one regulation win this season? They just won, right?
Yeah, it's just the one, because they've won 3 games: a shootout, an overtime win, and Colorado, where they won 6-2.
Right. So that's not a recipe. It's early.
I guess we could say one positive here is we won a shootout. We got that monkey off our back right away this year, because that's so painful to watch every year.
And a few empty net goals.
Yeah.
Right? At least 2. So I guess great. They've managed to kind of figure this out.
The quest for the Stanley Cup is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. If you're new to sports betting, DraftKings makes it super easy to get started. This week, we've got some great matchups to look forward to. The Florida Panthers are slightly favored against the Buffalo Sabres, and the Nashville Predators face a tough opponent in the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're 6-1 at home against Nashville in recent meetings. Remember, these lines and odds are subject to change, so check the app for the latest. And for new customers, here's the best part. Bet just $5 and you'll instantly get $200 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only at DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
You know, there's nothing quite like the energy of a live hockey game. Try to catch as many games as I can each season, and this year, GameTime's got me set to see my favorite teams live. If you haven't tried it, GameTime's new feature, GameTime Picks, is perfect for finding the best seats at the best prices. They cut out all the fluff, so you only see the deals that are actually worth it. I've been checking out seats for the next game, and let me tell you, the super deals are unreal. Plus, you can see your view before you buy. No surprises. With GameTime's all-in pricing, you get the total cost upfront, no hidden fees. And with their lowest price guarantee, if you find a better price, GameTime credits you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use promo code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code THPN for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. What time is it? Game time.
This is why it's so hard to have these conversations. You just wind up repeating yourself. But I think where I was trying to go was with Anders Lee. We change all this stuff, and I've kind of pointed to him for a long time, but now I don't know what else to think. Where there's an on ice problem. I think it's to your point. Waz not saying a whole lot. Maybe even before the game, but certainly between the games, between in intermissions. At a certain point, he fought last season. He's all bloody. He's trying to get the team going, and they didn't respond. It's almost one of those things where it's almost like changing your coach in a little bit. Like, do you just need a new leader? Do you need a new voice, kind of leading the group?
Look, it hasn't really done anything yet, and I don't want to harp on John Tavares, but he lost his captaincy, right? The team didn't get the results they want. He's not captain anymore. Matthews is captain. They're basically a middle of the road team right now, 4-4-1 or whatever. But that's what they're trying to do, and maybe it'll work for them. The Islanders, I think, need to do the same thing, and you can't do it mid-season, so you're stuck with it all season. You cannot. I can't see a graceful way to strip captaincy mid-season. So he's our captain this season, right? I think it should be Bo Horvat.
Change it.
Yeah. It should be Bo Horvat. I know they gave him the A, so maybe that's kind of where this is heading. And Horvat is really the one in taking charge in the room. But someone else needs to do it, and right now it doesn't seem like anyone's doing it because it's not working out. You have to get a little angrier. The team has to get angrier.
Yeah, I think what made this team really great, and it took a while for them for it to come to fruition, and it was such a short window for when it was working. But there was this chemistry gained over time, but they were playing with a chip on their shoulder. They were the laughing stock, and I'm sure everyone's maybe even a little sick of hearing it, but they almost need I'm not suggesting a giant line brawl hockey game, but they need a fight night. Like they don't have anything to rally around. There's no storyline. It's just don't play like shit. Like that's the only thing they're fighting against. And when you're in your own head, and that might be what it is. Like I don't know. They need to do some kind of like a magician puts them under psychosis or shit. Like I don't know.
They need to do what Nashville did last year. They all need to plan to go to a concert together, and then have their GM tell them they can't go, and then they start winning. Did you see that last year?
No, I was gonna point to like St. Louis just literally fought each other in practice.
Oh no! Last year, the Predators they had all tickets to go see U2 at the Sphere, and they were on like a bad losing streak, and Barry Trotz was like, "No, you guys aren't going to this anymore." He wouldn't let them go. Like they were like, grounded. Like Dad grounded them, and they went on that 17 game point streak right after it. They were like 15-0-2 after they weren't allowed to go see U2. So maybe like Lou can ground them. I don't know.
And maybe make them take the bus everywhere in the Atlantic instead of the charter, and I don't know, literal anything. Like I can't believe the answer was, okay, Duclair's hurt, bring back
Matt Martin.
Engvall, Matt Martin, and Fashing. Oh, okay. We tried the new guy. He got hurt, out of our control.
We broke him.
Okay, yeah, we broke him. Oops. Can't have new toys. And the answer was run it back.
Yeah, I mean,
with I don't get it.
Well, part of the again, I not defending bringing Matt Martin back because I'd rather just bring anyone back, like anyone in the AHL up over him. I'm tired of Matt Martin. I just don't think he's a good enough player anymore. And
No.
I liked him as an Islander. I think his career's cooked.
Agreed.
But again, this just goes back to Lou, and maybe Lou. It's hard because Lou probably should not have been selling the first round picks the way he was, and then we'd have a bit of a prospect pool, and maybe we'd have someone to pull up and give a shot, and like just see what you can do, kid. But we don't have that. We don't have anyone really down there to bring up and say like this is a future Islander. We have a couple lottery tickets maybe, but we don't have anything, and it's hard because you don't want to. Everyone sees like the tanking teams, like you see the Rangers who tanked for like 2 minutes and got Lafreniere, and then they got like Panarin who wants to sign for them. So like we're not gonna be the Rangers because we're not the New York City team. As close as we live there, we're not that team. So like
as many times as they put the Empire State Building in all the promo videos,
exactly. So
not New York City team.
So we're not like the premier free agent destination, and so just hoping on a tank, I understand like that's not something we can do, but I don't think we should be like Lou should be selling those pieces, and this is exhibit A why you can't just sell every first round pick to nibble at the edges of a team that doesn't have it, because now when you have one injury like that, we're not a team that's bitten by the injury bug yet. We have one injury and you're already scraping the bottom of the barrel to round out your roster.
Yeah. 7 or 6 games ago, you send down a player before the start of the season. You're like, Engvall, you're not good enough. Fashing, you've been replaced. And then one guy gets injured, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're back. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Gauthier gets one game. That experiment's over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You don't have the options down there. That's just
you don't have the options. And this is, I had this conversation. I think we spoke about it. I spoke about it in the second episode of the season with Michael Anderson about, Simplecop being finally the guy that we just get for free, that we didn't have to draft him. He had a lot of options. He came to the island, and there was kind of this little glimmer. I kind of just wanted him to. Other teams seem to just like find this guy out of nowhere sometimes, and he's just great. And has a breakout year, even like 20 goals. And I so badly wanted that to be him. And at first, it seemed like it. He's still gets 5 points through 8 games. He's not a slouch. He's figuring it out.
He's doing okay. I don't want to. I'm not selling on him yet. I'm happy with him overall.
I think yes. I think it was, to your point about Duclair having an injury and then everything kind of deteriorates. That was the only line that stayed together with Palmieri, Nelson, and Simplecop. I guess they're doing what they're supposed to do, right? It's the only line doing what they're supposed to do. Everyone else has been jumbled around and, players in and out. Yeah, it's kind of that's been the Islanders forever. Like it was Komarov was on the top line on a playoff run. Like it's just this hasn't changed. Even Duclair, who I think was a great pickup, really should have been a second line winger.
Yeah, exactly.
And Siplikov being in the Anders Lee spot or the Holmstrom spot, frankly. And then you still need a first line winger. I think more than the draft picks is they simply never had the cap room. They've handed off $3 million here or $1 million there. I don't even see what I assume the Martin deal was league min.
It's league minimum.
But then you call back you bring up Engvall, who I suppose they can waive again in a few weeks.
Actually, I don't know if it's league minimum. Whatever is, I don't know. He's getting $775 a year. I don't know if that's league min or not. Seems like it.
Yeah, I think it's in and around. It's gone up. It used to be $750, but I'm sure it's gone up. But so in and around league min, I guess I'm just a little lost. Like, I'm not surprised they did that because that was kind of the idea. Was there's going to be an injury. Martin's around. Engvall's there. Hopefully it's not like McLean who gets hurt. I guess you could just replace him with Fashing at that point. But you don't have a lot of options. So you kind of have to screw around on the edges because you need to be able to afford to bring in Matt Martin at, let's call it $1 million, and Engvall at $3 million. I actually don't know. I don't remember what Duclair's cap hit is. So I wonder. We didn't have that much room.
Duclair's cap hit's 3.5. We traded Duclair to bring in Matt Martin and Engvall. That's what it is.
But then they also brought in Fashing. Like the dollars are funky to me. I'm not exactly sure how that worked out because they were at the cap.
They're at the cap. I think it has to do. Some of it's with accrual. They sent Foodie down.
Yeah,
they're operating right on the cap. So again, it's just around the edges is what they can do right now. And they can only bring in league min players. So that's basically until Duclair gets back. This is what we got.
Yeah, I guess you can't if a good player gets hurt and all you can bring in is league min players. I guess expect league min quality. Like save for
that's the thing. If you're gonna play a roster that is gonna be at the cap, you need to have good young players to supplement your high ticket talent, and they just don't have that.
I mean, Siplikov has been like the best thing that's happened to them. That's not like a Bo Horvat trade or something like an established NHLer. Because they haven't been able to bring anybody up in a million years. On defense, it's even been a long time, but that was the last time that they've done it. Mitch and I talked about it. It was like going back to Niederreiter, Dalcol, Bellows. I mean, even Dufour, like he may never crack the NHL. It's been a long time since they've been able to bring up a forward that's been able to make any kind of, like Niederreiter did, just not for the Islanders. I think we would have been happy with Niederreiter the rest of his career if that panned out that way. But I don't know. Brock Nelson, that the last like good forward they actually developed.
It is.
And it's kind of crazy. I struggle with that. Even like maybe Sorokin as a goalie. But even that, like,
they didn't develop Sorokin. He was just in the KHL.
He was in the K. Like, he had nothing to do with it was nothing to do with the Islanders system or developing that in any way. But it's exhausting. And then when you're not getting, to speak about Sorokin and Varlamov, when you're not getting kind of world-beating goaltending like they did 2 years ago under Lambert, where the only reason why they made the playoffs that year was because Sorokin stood on his head. And last year they were not as good, but they still managed to figure it out. But so when you've regressed a little bit,
well, I think Sorokin's actually pretty much back to his great form. I mean, he lost 2 games that were shutouts. right? He lost to Dallas, and he lost to the other game. What was the other 1-0 game? Whatever. Detroit. Yeah, so that's 2 games where he let up 1 goal in overtime and 1 goal in regulation, and the team can't help him. He has a .922 save percentage right now. Like, I think. Let me see.
Yeah, his record isn't great, but that was the problem.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago too, right? Great stats, terrible record, but that's not his doing.
Overall, we've had 1 bad goalie game, I'd say, and it's Varlamov last game. Every other game, it's not our goalies. I think Sorokin's even given us some saves that were the saves we didn't get last year, where it's like, man, can we have a goalie rob 1 for us? I think he's done that this year already. He has 3.7 goals saved above expected. So like he's saving goals he's stopping pucks that should be in the net. So he's helping us out there. He's pulling the score in our favor, but we just can't put anything in the net.
I was gonna say, why doesn't it feel like that?
It doesn't feel like that.
You're just turning around and the puck's in our net. Like I just feel like it's clockwork. I don't get it.
Well, it's because you're giving up so many chances that are just tap-ins. The power play, the penalty kill can't stop. They've been a little better as of late, but even like going back to that first game against Utah, it was just, what was it, like 12 seconds into their first like penalty kill?
Yeah, and the power play is not much better.
No, they're 2 goals in the year so far.
Yeah, and there are some games where they're getting 3 and 4 opportunities.
Well, so the Detroit game, that's the thing though. We see the team getting a bunch of opportunities, but can you really say that the goalie for Detroit stole the game, or do our players just not finish and keep on shooting it into the chest? So it's the goal he shut out.
Could be true, but
he got a shutout in the NHL. Like, you don't get a shutout in the NHL without at least having a good game. So he did make good saves, but so many shots were also straight to his chest. It's infuriating.
The Islanders didn't do themselves any favors, and you let him feel the puck. You let him get into a rhythm. He did play really good. His movements weren't exaggerated. I don't even know who it was, but it looked good. He was feeling it, and he had a great game.
It was Alex Leon, or Lion, or however you say it.
And that's gonna happen. I don't want to say like, oh, they got goalied, but like, yeah, it's gonna happen. You're gonna lose a 1-0 game, and you're just gonna get frustrated and squeeze your stick too tight. But it seems like 3 times in 8 games.
It's bad.
And the blown leads, like, yeah, there's, not to kind of circle back to this, but there's the leadership problem and the lack of focus. I don't know what that takes. I think you could point to is the team too comfortable? I have a hard time believing Lamoriello lets that happen, and I think that's.
I think he does let it happen. People talk about Lamoriello like he's some mafia boss. Like, the guy hasn't had a Stanley Cup team since the early 2000s, right? He had one of the best top 3 goalies ever, right? And I'm not gonna tell you anyway. He built good Devils teams that won the Stanley Cup. It's just, I do think he has a country club environment going on. Players love him. Like, anyone that has played on a Lou Lamoriello team loves the guy. And I'm not saying he needs to make the players hate him, but other than his dumb rules about facial hair, like, and numbers, and only low numbers unless you earned a higher one, I guess. Like, maybe he is just like, it's pretty nice to play on a Lou Lamoriello team because you don't have to worry that much. Your job's pretty secure as long as you're like as long as you're a team guy, which you need those guys. But like, is that all you need to have a secure job, is just to show up to practice and work hard? Because I believe they work hard in practice. Like, you're in the NHL. You don't get there without working hard. So they're all working hard. It's just not it.
I mean, the Engvall thing for a second seemed like accountability. Like, moving on from Clutterbuck seemed like a move forward. Moving on from Bailey, moving on from Beauvillier. It seemed like there are these moments where you're like, okay, they're really gonna turn the page here. They're really gonna try something. Like they signed Duclair. Like that's not even the craziest thing. That would have been a good signing 2 years ago
Yeah,
if they
that's
had the
good.
opportunity.
It's a good signing.
And it's yeah, I think it's fine. So like there are these flashes or these glimpses that like okay, wow, they can do it. Like they've done more with less. So yeah, maybe this is a team that can um, really take that step in a full year, full full training camp with Patrick Waugh and all this stuff, and Sorokin's healthy, and or you were hoping he was healthy, and then you're getting good signs. Um, it's funny, like we started the conversation with the balance between the good and the bad. And the good stuff's really good. Like in a vacuum, like the Brock Nelson stuff, Simple Cobb kind of figuring stuff out.
Sorokin's back to form.
Sorokin back to form. Like okay, like most seasons that's more than you could ask for.
So let's
First line getting some chances. Like they seem to have some chemistry. Like all that shit's good. But
so let's look at it. That's what I'm trying to do. To be as positive as I can be. We have those positives. The negatives are the big negative. There's lots of negatives we touched on. The big negatives is that you can't hold a lead and you struggle to score some games. So I think you can build a defensive structure. We've seen Trotz build a defensive structure on this team. So Waugh can hopefully help them settle that down. Like and we'd stop blowing leads. Like it's hard to believe because this isn't 8 games we're seeing of it, like we've talked earlier. It's 200 games we've been seeing of it. But maybe like this could be the start of a turnaround now, and they stop blowing those leads, and we actually end up having a decent season. Because we do have those positives. We do have Nelson, like you said, Nelson looking good. Sorokin's looking good. The games we can't score, but when they are able to score games, we do have a game. We have a 4-goal game, a 6-goal game, a couple 3-goal games. Like so, we have put the puck in the net some games, so we do know how to score. It's just sometimes team completely shut us down,
or we just stop skating.
Yeah.
Or the Islanders stop skating, and like that's where Dobson is such an enigma. Like just all the talent, but it just seems again it's a lack of focus or something. Where he's just, I understand he's not a defensive defenseman, and that's fine. But when you're a liability unless you have the puck over the blue line, I don't know. That's really hard for. I would say fans that are a little bit more engaged than the average fan. And Islander fans are different breed. There's a lot of us are very highly engaged. So you just watch this guy, create offensive chances and then just have a complete defensive lapse. Romanov looks, I guess good up and down. I don't really have anything bad to say about Riley or Cholowski. The Pelech Pulak pair is, they want to be a shutdown pair, and they said all the right things. It's just, I think their better games are behind them at this point.
Definitely.
They don't really. They should be the third pair. Like that's an expensive third pair.
That's a way too expensive third pair.
But like at least like have somebody like.
I think they're actually a fine second pair. It's Dobson's still having some defensive lapses. That's what was the first game against Utah was kind of on Dobson there. So I don't know. They could clean it up, but yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm kind of trailing off here because I just don't even know what to say. I'm right.
Well, no, I mean it might be a good time just to, like end the conversation because I think that's like the frustration sets in, and I think this is where. And I was talking to Maggie right before I came on, and she's like, "Oh, what are you going to talk about?" And I'm like, It's so hard to you watch the game and you're mad because they do some stupid shit, and then you read up on it the next day about all the stupid shit they did, and then you tweet about it, and you're like, "Hey, I got to write some notes for the podcast." So then you relive it all. Like I'm reliving a bad Islander week 5 times.
That's why I let you do it. That's why I don't participate in show notes.
Like then you have like Ranger fan friends busting your chops. I'm like this is Groundhog's Day. Like the Islanders are doing the same thing for. I'd even go back 3 seasons and go back to that last Barry Trotz season. I know there's like a whole bunch of excuses you can throw in there, but it's literally the same shit that's been happening. So under 3 different coaches, we just watch the same players make the same mistakes by and large. It's just like, I don't know, you're waking up every day and it's the same day forever. And then fans have to relive every game and every week multiple times. I don't know. I think I remember in the early 2010s, I did not give a shit about the Islanders. Like it barely watched games because it just for what? I struggle with remembering some of those players, and there were some good moments here and there. And
Fight night happened in the early 2010s, so
2011, February 2011. Yeah, like there was some good. I know I was writing around 2013. They started kind of picking it up again, but like I just remember being an apathetic fan at that point and just not really being engaged. And I'd come home to Long Island and have I wasn't gonna waste money on going to a game, even if it was cheap. It just didn't make any sense, especially if they moved Barclays, and that just was an enormous pain in the ass. But yeah, I can't. Doing year 3 or 4 of this same conversation and then reliving it multiple times every week, it's just exhausting.
Well, let's hope they turn it around.
Yeah, I want to be positive, and like I just love this stupid team so much.
Well, now's the time to turn it around, right? Because who do we got next? We got the Ducks, not a great team. They've been playing all right to start the season actually, but they're not a great team. Then they got the Blue Jackets right after that. Then they got the Sabres. So you got the Sabres might be better this year. They're in purgatory forever. Like you have 3 games coming up. We know the Islanders always play down to their opponents. That's been their thing forever. But maybe this could set the season on a little bit of a better track. You got 3 games. Come in, you win. If you win all 3, you're looking good. So let's see.
A little confidence, a little swagger.
Yeah. So maybe this is the time where they can get things moving.
Here's to hoping, because it might be you and I doing a lot of these throughout the season, and which is great, but we can't be having the same conversation. we have to be able to like find a new bad thing. I would love for something, not to like reignite the conversation. I would love for this to have been like, wow, this new bad thing happened. They've never done this before.
I don't know.
This is super weird. Like it's just the fact that it's the same bad thing for years and years and years, with most, a good core, a decent core of players, and then some new players. Like they just learn the bad mistake. It's like you just had an old dog teach your new dog to shit on the carpet.
Yeah, bad tricks.
Like, yeah, it's just like I was really hoping that we avoided this because we have these players around, but yeah, I don't even know what the new bad thing is. They've hit bingo on pretty much all the ways you can lose and all the ways you can aggravate a fan base. They've found a way to hit them all. So maybe there is no new way, and I hope that this is not motivation for them to find.
Yeah, I think you're trying to summon something terrible. So let's all.
I don't know how else. I'm a '90s Islander fan. Like, what am I supposed to do? That's all I know. You know that.
They're going to do a new good thing. They're going to have, I don't know, 2 players are going to get a hat trick in one game. And we can talk about all the goals they scored.
Barzal and Siplikov, hat trick, dueling hat tricks. I don't know. Against whoever. Doesn't really matter. Make Trevor DeSeekers look like an idiot against Anaheim. Score 1 million goals. All right. I'll try to be positive. Just wanna watch some hockey, man, and enjoy it. That's all I'm asking for.
A good game, yeah. Give us a full 60. Yeah.
A full 60 and lose, like, fine. I hate like a feel good loss. Like I hate that, but it just seems like there's no effort. But we're gonna go back to the beginning of the conversation. Please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube at Nassman Hockey. You can also subscribe to NHP the blog on Patreon. It's free, so no obligation. I've been a little busy as of late, some family stuff, and not really all the time that I wanted. So subscribe just in case I find the energy and the time to do that. The link is in the description and in our link tree on our Twitter. And until next time, let's go Islanders.